And I'm going to have to hire more qualified people, right? I'm going to, here's another thought. Uh, the existing organization, which in our case was very small, we were maybe 20 people at that point in time. Uh, there are so many new roles and so many new demands. You cannot hire fast enough and integrate people fast enough in order to deal with all the problems that suddenly are at your doorstep. And so Jeffrey Moore uses the illustration of a conductor of a musical orchestra. And so, at this particular moment, the horns have to play. At this particular moment, the woodwinds have to play. And he's orchestrating continuously the roles that people play and how they play them and when they play them in order to meet the changing demands of the client base. So, what does that mean for the individuals in your company? That means that individuals, they can't think like big company people. They have to think super flexibly. That today I'm going to run customer service, and tomorrow I have to deal with quality control, and the next day I have to deal with client relations. And they may or may not have all these skill sets. So you have to coach them and develop them very rapidly into being able to handle roles they never anticipated that they would have to fulfill. So the comfort zone goes right out the window during a period like this. And the organization, again, it has got to grow rapidly. And where are these new people and these more qualified people going to come from? They're often going to come from larger, significantly larger companies, stratified companies, bureaucratic companies. So you go from this entrepreneurial flex situation, bringing in a bunch of very skilled new people who are expecting a resource equation that does not exist in your organization. So it's quite a challenge, and you have to figure it out. You're the CEO. You're running the program. And then the other thing you have to contend with is, do I have enough capital? Because, and this is again something that we ran into early on, is we were just going gangbusters and we were doing great. And we went from in a 6-month period from signing this guerrilla client, we went from a very cash positive position. I want to say in 6 months we lost $500,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had the organization.
And I imagine you had never lost $500,000 before.
I wouldn't know what that meant. But this is the thing. I mean, I grew the organization to 37 people because I knew I had to have a bigger organization, but we could not. The revenue was not yet there to support that size organization, which is why people are going to look for a capital raise in many situations like that. And I would have to freely admit, it never occurred to me I should raise capital in 2003 or 4. So we did it organically, and that puts things into a whole different scenario, and the burn rate changes, and it's all out of proportion, your cash flow. And you're asking yourself, how in the world am I going to get from this visionary stage into the early majority stage? And I can tell you one thing. It will be, there's that movie, right? There Will Be Blood. It's a bloody, difficult process. It tests your skill, it tests your will, it tests your resourcefulness more than you would have ever imagined. And you know what else is going to happen? You're going to lose people, because you're not just burning cash, you're burning people out. And so you'll probably lose accounts in the middle of this big growth spurt, because you haven't quite figured out how to manage this level of difficulty. We lived through all of that, and we lost that big gorilla account after holding on to them for 4.5, 5 years. We lost it, and then you would think that's bad enough because they were a big chunk of our business. But then came 2009, which was the worst recession since the Great Depression. So in our case, we had to deal with a reduction in revenue of 40% in a year and a half, in the middle of making our largest capital investment that we would have far beyond what we would have ever thought we had to invest into the software platform. And we did a ground up rebuild. So we went from being a rocket ship. I mean, we were a rocket ship. I could hold up these plaques that I have, Cranes Fast 50. Mm-hmm. We were Inc. 500 company. And, you know, just on a super high, we went from that rocket ship to being in the biggest debt position, bigger than I would have ever imagined. And there's a saying in building software that it takes twice as long and costs twice as much as you think. It's way worse than that. way worse than that. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, maybe if you have your act together, it could get close to that. But for a lot of organizations, it costs 5 to 8 times what you think it's going to cost. And it may take not just a year or 2 years, it may take 5, 6, 7 years to fully flesh out your vision.